We had our first ever career day. Never had one before. I think I was a junior in high school. You could go hear two professions talk, and I signed up for FBI agent twice because I thought, this sounds really cool. I want to be an FBI agent, right? I don't know, it was a calculus teacher or something. She said, you're good at math. You should go hear this actuary talk. I'm like, I didn't know what that is, but I thought, okay, well, I've got a slot here. Maybe I don't need to go to the FBI agent twice. FBI agent was first. I was sold. It sounded really hard. You have to be an accountant or a lawyer to get in. It's brainy. Everything about it appealed to me, and you could carry a gun. It just sounded cool. Then the actuary came in, and she absolutely blew him away. She was smarter. She was faster. Didn't get the gun, but you do get a scientific calculator. And the actuary at the time paid $500 more a year on average. So I decided to be an actuary. And then Ball State had all we could afford was in-state tuition. And Ball State actually had a real legit actuarial science program. At the time, one of the best in the country. So I just went an hour down the road and went to Ball State and absolutely loved it.
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun about all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to the Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today's episode is brought to you by Palacio and Partners, providing turnkey podcast creation, hosting, production, promotion, and related creative resources for you and your business. Today, Jeff is interviewing Mo Bunnell. Mo is the CEO and founder of BIG, the Bunnell Idea Group, helping their clients grow in a way their clients love. They scale business development skills across organizations to create a growth-oriented culture. He's the author of Give to Grow, the Snowball System, and the host of the podcast, Real Relationships, Real Revenue. Mo started his career as an expert himself, passing all the actuarial exams to earn their highest designation, Fellow of Society of Actuaries. Today, Mo enjoys working with hundreds of clients, including some of the largest, most prestigious service-based organizations. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Mo.
Mo, welcome to the podcast this afternoon.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I'm excited about being on the show and glad we've met. I think we're going to have some fun today.
I've never interviewed a homecoming king, and I've interviewed a homecoming queen, so I'm very interested to talk to you. But no, congratulations. I know your company next month is celebrating 20 years.
Yeah.
So very excited about that. And love your book, Give to Grow. We're going to talk about that. And I don't know, one of the first pages, one of the best lines that I would love to steal, but it says, I wake up every morning looking to help my friends succeed, and some of them happen to be my clients. So it's a great philosophy. And again, very excited and honored that you came on the podcast. But let's talk a little bit about, even people know you fairly well. You're pretty active out there on socials, and your LinkedIn is detailed. But what would surprise them about you?
Yeah, funny. Today we hit 50,000 subscribers, followers, whatever on LinkedIn, which was a fun little milestone.
Nice.
Well, I'll say this. You mentioned the homecoming king. If you do ever interview another homecoming king, then another weird filter would be, I'm probably going to be the only person you ever interview that was an actuarial science major that was a homecoming king. So
yes,
that might be a claim to fame.
Wow. Yes. I didn't even think about that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am going to get into it later. And the other thing about you, which I did happen to see on your Facebook, was oh my God, you are Matthew McConaughey and you're a senior high school pitcher. I mean,
It's oddly close. Yeah. Now
it,
I lost a lot of hair, so not anymore. But at that one moment in time,
yeah, no. Well, have you read his book, Green Lights?
I have it. I've got it. It's actually in the queue, and I haven't quite got to it yet. It
Yeah,
just
it's
keeps never.
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's almost like no other book you've ever read. He's very transparent. I mean,
Yeah.
he's Matthew McConaughey, but he used something. He was losing his hair when he was like 35-ish, and he used something. I don't know. It's in the book. I can't remember. But yeah, astonishing look-alike for sure.
Yeah. Well, this is. We'll get into like content your audience probably wants, but to be a little funny,
Yeah.
I met Matthew. I'm a member of a fraternity, the same one he is, Delta Tau Delta, and I was a chapter consultant for a year where I traveled around, did not quite, but almost 50 campuses that were Delta chapters. I'd stay for 3 days, try to help them. It was a lot of fun. And he was a Delta Texas when I went through there. And I'll never forget the chapter president was like giving me a tour of the house right when I got there, and Matthew was shooting pool. And the only reason I remember it is he's like, oh, you need to remember this guy. He's like, because he was I think he was a pledge or a freshman or something. He's already been in after school specials, if anybody old enough to remember what those are.
Right.
So he already had a bit of an acting career. And I remember chatting with him for 3 or 4 minutes. I doubt Matthew remembers me. But anyway, I met him one time and we're both in the same fraternity. So I've been sort of a fan for a long time. So I need to read the book.
Yeah, like in college, he was journaling and he had 10 goals he wanted to achieve: win an Oscar, be a great father. I forget what the other 8 are. Those are the ones I remember. But yeah, just fascinating. Fascinating mind. Where did you grow up, Mo, and what was fun for you growing up?
Man, I had 2 childhoods. I grew up in sort of a neighborhood where everybody could ride bikes with each other, and that was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, northeastern part of the state. And then in 5th grade, I moved to a town of 80 people.
Wow.
There was nobody.
Yeah.
So I went through like 2 childhoods. One was like be home when the streetlights come on and you're out with your friends all the time.
Yeah.
And then playing football in the summer and basketball and board games in the winter. And then the whole rest of my life after 5th grade was just like me alone with a dog. And I think in this little town and soybeans and cornfields everywhere. Wow. And I think I just sort of, in a weird way, it was really good because when I was in that really more quiet part of my childhood, it was really hard. And I think I longed for community and I longed for relationships. And I think that's part of what steered me towards the life we have now, where we've trained 60,000 people. Everything's around relationship development and building community and helping others, stuff that, I think that sort of rural childhood in Indiana taught us, like long-term relationships matter. Right. And you just roll up your sleeves and help somebody, much like in Kansas. And the community aspect is something I didn't have but wanted. And that's sort of what my wife and I have spent our lives since then trying to do.
Yeah, so cool. You're actually my second Fort Wayne hometown person or birthplace person. So, and I used to be a very a sports historian. So the old days of the NFL, NBA, and obviously Fort Wayne had an NBA team, I believe. Yeah.
Pistons. Well, yeah. I think the Pistons started in Fort Wayne. Maybe I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Were you good in math? Is that why you want to do actuary? I don't even know if I could say actuary.
Yeah. I was. So I went to a little county seat farm town, and we had our first ever career day. Never had one before. I guess this would have been like 1985 or something. I think I was a junior in high school. You could go hear 2 professions talk, and I signed up for FBI agent twice because I thought, this sounds really cool. I want to be an FBI agent, right? And my teacher, I don't know, it was a calculus teacher or something. She said, "Hey, you're good at math. You should go hear this actuary talk." I'm like, I didn't know what that is, but I thought, okay, well, I've got a slot here. Maybe I don't need to go to the FBI agent twice. FBI agent was first, and it was oddly in the same room. I didn't even have to move. He came in, he talked. I was sold, Jeff. It sounded really hard. You have to be an accountant or a lawyer to get in. It's brainy. Everything about it appealed to me, and you could carry a gun, which I didn't even, it just sounded cool.
Yeah, right.
Then the actuary came in, and she absolutely blew him away. She was smarter, she was faster, didn't get the gun, but you do get a scientific calculator. Right. And the actuary at the time paid $500 more a year on average. Like, isn't that funny?
Right.
So I decided to be an actuary, and then Ball State had all we could afford was in-state tuition, and Ball State actually had a real legit actuarial science program. At the time, one of the best in the country. So I just went an hour down the road and went to Ball State, and absolutely loved it. Don't obviously don't do it anymore, but I love being an actuary and just learning super complicated mathy stuff that I think still helps me today.
We're gonna go back to that, but I also noticed like you were. I didn't do any fraternity, Greek life. Our college wasn't really big on it, but you were like everything, like top award winner, held office, all that good stuff, and then and it led you to a job in that same fraternity. You told the Matthew McConaughey story, meeting him. You also said it was a life-changing job, and I believe it was your first job out of college. So talk about that. Why was it life-changing and for you?
Well, this might be helpful to your audience. I think as I have now coached, or our companies trained or coached or whatever, all these high-end professionals on business development or relationship development, one of the things I've noticed is that some of the best typically had some type of experience earlier in life where they learned how to handle rejection. So if you go all the way back to the 70s, there was a company called the Southwestern Companies, I think, where you didn't sell encyclopedias door to door. Some of the top legal and consulting rainmakers that now are like, they might be in their 60s now at the later stage of their career, they were Southwestern people. Like, they learned how to like knock on somebody's door at a bad part of town and try to sell a set of encyclopedias, right? And there's just, or maybe I think of Andrew Robinson. He's CEO of BBDO. Now he's a chairman of the board, one of the biggest agencies in the world. He sold life insurance, like door to door. I think having those formative experience sometimes earlier in life can be really helpful. And for me, the chapter consultant job was interesting because you drop into a chapter. So say I go to the University of Texas, wherever it was, wherever Delta chapter I was going to. They think you're the police from National, so they already don't like you and they're afraid of you, and they don't want to share anything, right? Because they think you're going to get them.
I'm from corporate. I'm here to help you.
Yeah, totally. And like you're some kind of police force, and you have to, like, in 3 days. They set it up a little different these days, but at the time, 3 days, you'd have to build trust, figure out what's going on, build a plan, galvanize the team around the plan, leave with that in 3 days, and move on. And man, you got really good at figuring out what somebody was like, what a win for them was, how to handle all the objections you get of people who don't even want to meet with you and cancel meetings because they're afraid, stuff like that. And just doing that every 3 days over and over and over again. I think I learned more about how to be a consultant, an advisor, and a trainer in that job than I probably did in the next 5 or 6 years. And I did it 1 year. It was amazing.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I was going to ask you later on, but now's a good time because you brought it up. Like, I think cold calling, it builds, your resilience, overcoming rejection is key because the top performers, move beyond, or as you would put it in the book, everything's an opportunity, right? To, grow the relationship. But what is your take on it? I mean, there are some transactional, there's not as many door-to-door people anymore, but, like almost everybody that's been on vacation at a timeshare gets the timeshare 90-minute. They'd say it's 90 minutes and it's 2 hours later, and they're just, they're banging your head on the desk and stuff like that.
In the face, right?
Because do your give the grow, or what your sales principles you teach, your clients, do they apply there? Because it's not a long-term relationship, I don't think. But I would just love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think not really. Maybe the problem with any kind of transaction where you're being manipulative, like that's just not any. We're teaching the opposite of that, right? So it's like our content really, really fits well where the long-term relationship is paramount to the deal. We talk with new folks all the time that find out about us. We had a call yesterday. It makes me think of it. Super complicated engineering kind of services where there's a massive deployment. I won't go into detail about who it is, but it can take 3, 4, 5 years for a major entity, usually a large utility, to hire this company and their innovative products. Really cool stuff. Deep technical engineering involvement. Like it's not easy. And they were talking about like, yeah, we went through some sales training a couple of years ago. It just didn't fit. We couldn't figure out why. It just felt sort of cheesy. And I was like, well, where was the relationship mentioned? Was it only talk about quotes making a sale? Or was the relationship brought up at all? And to what level was its importance? Was the relationship paramount to a short-term deal? Or was the deal they were in sales training, air quotes, was it more paramount than the relationship? They're like, oh, they didn't even mention relationships. It was just like all tips on how to close the deal. I'm like, there's the problem.
Yeah.
Because, man, if you're selling high-end advisory services, professional services, healthcare, anything where there's a longer-term services-based contract or engagement, any of those things, the relationship is actually more important than a short-term deal. And one of the phrases we like to say, you probably saw this in the book, Give to Grow, our book, is a great deal might make your year, but a great relationship can make your entire career.
Yeah, great line.
Yeah, and there's just so much out there that's like, here's how to manipulate the person to make the deal. Like, no. That's why sales gets a bad name. It shouldn't, but it does. We want to be relationship focused and do things that are everybody is always winning at every turn. And it just happens, we do that in a way that happens to result in a lot of commercial activity for us. There's a way you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way.
Yeah. Talk about your career transformation in terms of, being an actuary is, it's data driven. You're building models and predicting, events and, it's a lot of statistics and predictive modeling and, things like that. And then, then you kind of morph into this, sales relationship guru and build your own company and that. So talk about that.
Yeah. So I was attracted, I'll pick it up from that high school career day. I was attracted to how hard it was to be an actuary. I was sitting there, I'm alone. I'm in this town of 80 people. I'm driving 4 miles to the county seat to go to high school, whatever. And I just felt like I wanted to do something really hard. And our family didn't have much economic success at all. Long story there, I'll skip over. But I wanted to have financial acumen too. Like I had to figure this riddle out, like how do finances even work? And the actuarial science teaches you that too. So I was drawn to it. And so over it took at the time in the 80s and 90s, it took like eight or 10 years to pass all these exams to be a licensed actuary. Did that, passed the Pinnacle exam. And at that exact month, the professional service firm, the consulting firm I was with said, hey, you're an actuary with a personality. I literally was told that, thought that was funny. I still do. And they said, we want to move to this senior role that we call managing consultant. And I had lobbied for it too. I really wanted it and built out this plan to get there. So what a managing consultant did was sort of would be a managing director and senior partner these days is what people would call it, was where you managed and led the largest client relationships we had as a global consulting firm. So in 1 month, in the same month, beginning of the month, I'm doing those models. I hit F9 in Calc and Excel and a Lotus 123 or whatever we're using at the time. It literally takes sometimes like 30 or 40 minutes to run the model. I time my bathroom breaks about how complicated these things are. And then at the end of that month, I'm leading our biggest client. We're asked, I've got a mentor and some friends and some people help me, but I'm being asked to lead the biggest client relationships we had as a firm. I'd say co-lead at that point with a mentor. Jeff, I was petrified. I'm now dealing with people 30 years older than me. I used to be the technical expert that nobody understood what I did, and I try to explain it. Now the client knows more than I do about all these hundreds of offerings we had as a firm. And my only move was generosity. All I could really do is learn how do I fall in love with their problem? How can I connect them with the experts that we have on our team globally, find the best people, recruit them, get them in front of that client, give the client the experience of working with these other folks I'm bringing to bear, build teams that are, probably on the more complicated stuff that we do because these are our biggest clients. So it's probably cross-discipline to do things, figuring out how to treat the client right and bring our best resources to them and fall in love with their problem and line everything up. It turned out that was a skill. I started taking notes to myself of what's working, experimenting on myself like Tim Ferriss style, like what's not working. And over time, that became almost like a methodology that was working crazy. Wow. And I started getting asked internally to give like internal training class. Like, can you tell us how you're doing this? How are you getting this growth? It was sort of the accidental entrepreneur. I created something, I created a methodology for myself, turned out other people wanted it. And to your point, it was about 20 years ago when I finally got the guts to leave that firm as effectively a senior partner and start Bunnell Idea Group. And it turns out now there's a lot of people who want to know, how can I build a big book of business while I'm deepening relationships? And that's what we teach.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We talked when we first met last week about Bob Berg and John David Mann's book, The Go-Giver, one of my favorites. But I think that was written in 2004. So like, how did you learn this methodology, this process of kind of, selling your way? Because, the past 8 years, you're either working, having some kind of personal life, and studying for passing the exam, actuary exam. So, I mean, like, what was your process? Did you have books or mentor? I mean, you have internal mentors, but tell us about that.
It was a combination of all those things. Like, I couldn't find any book that really gave me the whole system. That's what I wanted, was like a manual.
Yeah.
That's almost what I've spent trying to create, was the manual I wanted back then that I can give to other people. And that's our whole system. It's called Grow Big. It's 17 modules. It's everything a person needs to be great at growth, basically. And that's what we deploy at these huge global clients now that we work with, tier 1 consulting firms and global elite law firms and the largest brokerages in the world and all those kind of great clients, healthcare companies. But the way I got there was just cobbling together a bunch of other things. So I probably read a book a week for 5 years, a couple hundred, and I'd get a nugget here, an idea there. My mentors were really great. A guy named Andy, a guy named Michael, Jason, a bunch of others. They each had different approaches. So I was like, oh, wow, this worked well here, but that one worked better there. And I sort of how can you be pliable and flexible? And then I could remember this one moment. I had this meeting where we had another managing consultant that just didn't show up for work for a month, probably drug problems I never found out. She had landed a meeting with the CHRO at a Fortune 20 company that we did just a smidge of work with, but we didn't know the CHRO at all. So the guy who ran the region came to me and said, hey, I got great news. I want you to handle the XYZ account because we can't find so-and-so. We're worried about her. We're trying to find her, but we get this meeting Wednesday or whatever. Like, it wasn't like a month from now. It was like Wednesday. It was like a few days. And great news, I want you to go lead it. I was like, I don't even know that. Like, what are you talking about? So I remember going to Starbucks, Jeff, and writing, this was crunch time. Like, how can I throw everything I got at this through generosity? Because I got one shot and I don't even know if she knows I'm the one coming. That's when I developed the Give to Grow kind of model, where I ran around all of our practice leaders and asked, what would you do if you could get a meeting with this person? And I came up with like 10 or 12 different gratis, no charge, like really compelling best of the best offers. I walked into that meeting with her and she walked in and said, this was the opening. She said, I don't know how you got this meeting, but I've been at this for a couple decades. I already know everybody in the industry. I just don't need help. I really appreciate you coming. I wish I would have let you know this yesterday, but thanks for coming. And I said, but can I just show you I came up with all these. I actually showed her my handwritten notes and said, can I just at least show you some things that I worked on? Like, I've got about a dozen gratis investments we'd like to make in your success. And I just begged her to listen to one. I was like, it wasn't even about making a sale or anything. I was like, I thought about all the work I did. I was really selfish.
You didn't want to go to waste.
Can you please just listen to one? Well, Jeff, she liked the first one. She's like, it took me a while to get it out, but we're like 8 or 10 minutes in. She's like, I would love to do that. That'd be that person would fly over from London for me. I'm like, yeah, I just talked with her. She's our global practice leader in that area. And we would love, she's like, well, what's the second one? Jeff, I left with like 9 to-dos. Yeah. Wow. And within a few years, they were one of our top 5 global clients. I mean, it's just amazing. But it all started with generosity. I think that was the spark that told that meeting. I drove home. I remember blaring the Beastie Boys because I was so happy. And because I made a difference and I knew we had something there. I felt like I'd unearthed some hidden gem that no one knew. It was like, generosity is the master key to success.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started thinking about maybe I should leave this firm and do something on my own. It was just a spark. It took another 5 or 6 years, but that's when I knew I was onto something special.
Yeah. I was going to wait a little bit, but let's talk about your book, because I love the Go-Giver. I think it's a great, I don't know what kind of genre. It's a novel, fable, written with fictitious characters that had real people in mind.
So good.
Yeah, one of my probably my most gifted book. But that's like on one end of the spectrum. I think Adam Grant's Give and Takes on the other end. It's a great book. It's very, you probably love it because it's data driven, and Adam Grant his writing's fantastic and his insights are fantastic. Good. But I feel like your book is kind of in the middle of it, meaning like you reference both, but you have a methodology and a process, and the mindset piece for me was, because I would always, every time, which I'm doing, hopefully daily, following your process, doing some, strengthening relationships and business development. But it's just like, man, friends of mine would ghost me on emails, and I'm like, what? I mean, like, I'm talking about friends that I go on vacation with and go out to dinner with as couples. I'm like, so how could, Joanne Smith, who I don't even know, and I reached out to, or we had a great first meeting and then she won't return my subsequent emails. Like, I would get like, what the hell is going on? It's crazy. Like, it's like people want this. Well, you told me you want it. Now you don't even answer my emails. The difference you make in terms of doing the work and the mindset of winning the business, just those things, and the lies people you tell yourself, and I don't know. I would just love to hear kind of talk about the mindset piece, talk about, doing the work versus winning the work. Let's start there.
Yeah, let's do it. And I think what's so cool about you is we've met, you've read the book and all that. So maybe we just go through each section of the book.
Yeah.
And you and I can go back and forth. How's that sound? I'll do one.
Yeah. I Joe was kind enough to tell me about the book. And then I reached out to him and said, can you introduce me to them? And then I told a good friend of mine about the book, and he goes, I got the book today. And that was like in the afternoon. And that evening he goes, oh, I love the book. I'm halfway through it or something like that. I mean, like, but yeah, let's chat about it.
Let's do it. Yeah. And to your point before, like people that love the Go-Giver or Give or Take, or even just this conversation, like they'll love the book. We try to make it ridiculously fast moving. I would have, in my metaphor in my mind, was somebody could read like they were reading downhill. Like it's almost like, I read the half of it. I can't believe it. It's so digestible. So really packs a punch.
Are you drowning in boring corporate communications? Palacio and Partners is here to rescue you. We transform internal podcasts from snooze fest to must-listen content that actually connects your team and strengthens your culture. Imagine podcast episodes that make your employees laugh while staying informed. Our founder, Jeff Palacio, doesn't just create podcasts, he creates conversations that break through the noise. Whether you're a growing startup or a massive corporation, we turn your company's story into audio gold. Leadership becomes human. Remote teams feel connected. Your message cuts through the clutter. Palacio and Partners, where corporate communications gets a fun makeover. Let's make your podcast work harder than your email inbox ever could. Jeff is happy to share his insights on podcasting with you. You can contact him via LinkedIn or schedule a Zoom call via the link in the episode description.
So there's 4 sections in the book. The first one's all about mindset. And the general idea there is that, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Jeff, is that there's, in almost every organization, there are methods to teach the technical aspect of the organization. Somebody's a lawyer, they're just doing the work and getting feedback on the contracts, or maybe they do litigate, whatever it is. Like they're going to get better at doing the work. If they're in healthcare, like we do work with the Blues plans in Kansas City, we do work about half of the Blue Cross Blue Shield plans in the country. Like it takes 10 years to learn the business of healthcare just to be able to lead a client account, right? So there's methods to learn the doing of the work. What there's usually not methods on internally is how to win the work. How do you develop relationships? How do you keep going when the person does ghost you? How do you flip from having the answer, which is the right thing when you're doing work, to actually go in with questions and fall in love with their problem, which is the key thing when you're winning work. I mean, it even gets to simple things like an email around the doing of the work makes sense to be really long and have the 7 things you need by Tuesday to do the implementation or the next step, whatever. But man, when you're winning work, emails should be like 50 words or less. That's about what fits on one screen on Outlook on a phone.
I love that tip. That was so good.
Yeah, well, no one's taught these things. So the first section of the 4 of the book is just all about noticing and making it clear that you need a different mindset to win work versus do work. You need a different method, things like the email size, but there's a million others. And that just framing up of the shaping the agenda, the deepening of relationships, those skills are learnable, which is great, but completely opposite in most cases of the doing the work. And you got to lean into that to do it well. What's your take?
No, I totally agree. And like I said, I was having an experience of, people would say, oh yeah, this is great. Let's do something. And then, ghosting. But you have that T-chart, doing the work versus winning the business. And, don't expect to get ghosted. So you're not going to be disappointed if you're ghosted, if you expect it, right?
Right.
Yeah, I was like, so I thought that was phenomenal. And it is about mindset. And the other thing I took away from that was, you control the interaction. I have some nuances. I don't like to email anyone Monday morning. I just figure they're getting back into the work life or whatever. But, you'll say, you can't time it. It's like timing the market, the stock market. So I agree. You just send it and, offer value, and Bob Burg would say the same thing. You control the value piece of it, and whether you believe in, you follow Stoicism or Viktor Frankl or, Mel Robbins, which I have not read, as, best-selling book, Let Them. It's like, you don't control people. You can only control yourself. And and I love Ryan Holiday's work, and he's all about Stoicism. So So that was a couple of my takeaways.
No, I think that's great. And I think just to build on what you said, sometimes people ask, what's the optimal time to send an email? Because almost like they're comparing them as a human being to large scale campaigns where on Constant Contact, where you're selling something to sending an email to 50,000 people.
Yeah.
Well, then there might be an optimal time.
Yeah.
But when it's one person to one person or a small group, the best time to send is when you can. Because the barrier is delay. The barrier is never sending the note. Yeah. So you can always, go into Outlook or whatever and delay maybe you don't want it to land at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night because that's when you had it the moment.
Right.
You could delay the send till Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. But the best time to write it, at least, is when you have the chance to write it.
Yeah. I will say too, unless I know somebody, I like to send within their business hours, and I'll just say that's 8 to 5, whatever time zone they're in, unless they start emailing me on weekends or 9 p.m. or something. Then I figure, hey, it's free game. Yeah. I'm a morning person. Mo, you'll probably never get an email from me, after 6 p.m. Central Time, unless it's something urgent that you need me to get back to, because I'm just like, I'm family time right now, or personal time. So
should we go to the second part of the book?
Yeah, let's go.
This was interesting. This actually isn't in the book. It'll be fun to share with you. At one point, writing the manuscript, my publisher asked, "Hey, when do people struggle?" Because I'd already told him all kinds of huge success stories and transformative experiences people had gone through as individuals, but also entire organizations, I think, have been transformed by our training and coaching. And he's like, "You've told me that, but when do people struggle? I think this should be in the book." It was like, I have some few ideas, but I didn't have a good answer, Jeff. It's not like we get emails all the time of "Oh my God, I had the best year of my career. It's all because of you." We get that. Yeah. You don't usually get an email saying, "I'm really struggling." Right. I just want to let you know. Yeah. Every once in a while, but not, can I have some help? But so what we did was, in literally hundreds of workshops to figure this out, because there's a whole team of people that are on the team that train and coach. for Bunnell Idea Group. And so all of us for months, if we started a workshop, we'd say, hey, we're just doing a little research. This is going to be meaningful for you too. Think of somebody that you've meant to reach out to, but you've hesitated or you haven't even reached out to yet. Everybody's got that person, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, Jane, friend from college, but she just got promoted. We fell on a tie. I feel weird about reaching out now. Anyway, everybody gets that name. And then we said, okay, type in a chat if we're in Zoom, or we'd flip chart if we were in person. Tell me exactly what was in your mind when you hesitated. So we collected all these verbatims. We knew we were done when we didn't hear anything new. It took months. Then we organized them. Man, we didn't know if there'd be like 3 obstacles, 23, 43, whatever. And it turns out there's 5 big lies that we will tell ourselves that get in our own way. That was in the book. And there are things like, I can't do this, which might mean I can't do relationship stuff at all in the beginning of somebody's career. But later on, they're more narrow. They're like, I can't sell the big deals like Jane can, or I can't do board level work, or I have trouble speaking to a CEO, or I can't give speeches in front of a big group. It's like, so at first it's the big stuff, and then it's the narrow stuff. I don't need to go through every lie, but there are things like, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid I'm going to look bad. Anyway, there's 5 of these. And the point of that section of the book is to show people those verbatims. Everybody feels this stuff. It's just our brain trying to keep us safe. Our brain is trying to get us to not act because we're always taking risks if we're shaping the agenda, if we're deepening relationships. So our brain's trying to get us to not do that because it's risky. Brain's trying to keep us alive, keep us safe. So we need to know exactly what we might be thinking, how to overcome each one, because the person who can do that can act more. They can just, it's their move. They can go again, they can go again, they can go again. And it's that person that just keeps persevering that has the biggest impact.
My first sales role, I was in marketing and sales analytics for both consumer and B2B. I started my career as IT application developer. So there you go. And then moved on to more, kind of closer to the customer facing roles. But I was director of national accounts. My accounts were about 14% of a $80 million NASDAQ publicly traded company. And so I worked for a great person where I learned a lot from. But my second sales role, I was doing 100% commission role with a small mortgage company in Kansas City that got bought by Capital One.
Wow. That's hardcore stuff right
so
there.
We were at 65 loan officers. We went to 225. That was the growth in like 2 years. And the highest performing person, because it was the typical Glengarry, Glen Ross type of environment. We had Tuesday night meetings every Tuesday night at 6:30 in the our auditorium. You get the handout of the sheet where you rank at that month, where you're at.
Oh my gosh, that is so hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But they actually looked at the highest performing person. I want to say they even videoed. They observed him, and you think, okay, inside sales, it's the talkative, the extrovert. This guy just total monotone, total, nothing, everything was the same. 2 things that made him the best. One was on a rejection, he just moved on to the next opportunity, and his follow-up skills were unparalleled. So that, and the guy was making about $400,000 a year, give or take. Yeah. So I mean, but it was not that the typical, oh, this guy's a relationship builder, he's an extrovert.
Reminds me of a person I interviewed. So we done some work with one of the top tier management consultants, one of the 3 big ones in the world, and Henning Struble was on our podcast. It's called Real Relationships, Real Revenue. That's the name of ours. And Henning just blew me away. We had worked together a lot. He's a managing director and senior partner at BCG. I asked him, he mentioned it to me this one time, and I wanted him to tell it on the show. He said, sometimes people will give him feedback that he's unemotional. And he's like, no, that's not the case at all. He's like, when he feels deep emotion, like say he didn't win a really big potential engagement that they could have won. He really wanted it, didn't win, right? It went to one of the other couple big ones. He will actually go into his office, shut the door, and for 5 minutes or so, he'll feel that emotion as fully as he can. However that comes out for him, he will not delay. He will feel it. He will try to just almost force himself to magnify it almost. And what he says that lets him do, and like it's deep regret, maybe I could have done something different. We should have said that different in the finalist meeting. Maybe I should have orchestrated the network. These are huge deals at major organizations. And he said he feels that emotion 100%, and that lets him stop and just get up and go, what's next? What am I going to do again? And I've really taken that to heart. I think a lot of times as humans, it can be scary to show emotion. Now, he shuts the door to do it, but it can be scary to like even engage in our own emotions around disappointment, especially whether it's somebody that ghosted us on email or we actually gave a huge pitch and lost, whatever it is in between that. And he says, no, like feel the emotion fully, allow your body to process it, get right back up and say, how do I deepen the next relationship? How do I go again? I think that's a really cool way of looking at it.
Yeah, I've heard of that, like kind of that 5-minute rule. Yeah, I think it's great. Marty Schottenheimer, the ex-coach of the Chiefs and Browns, San Diego, I forget where else he coached, but he had a rule like if they lose on a Sunday, you get till midnight to lament the loss, but the next day you're done with it, because it's now the next opponent, and it's time to move on. So yeah, I love that.
So if the second section is all about how do you get yourself out of the way and go again, how do you deepen that relationship? How do you make the next offer? What's the next generous move? What's the next way to make your clients, partners, coworkers successful? Then the third section is like, how do you actually get the yes? If we're in the business of relationship development, we're naturally in the business of shaping the agenda. We have mad skills, people need them, but they might not realize it yet. So we've got to like find a way to get in front of people. And what that section 3 maps out is just a wonderful process. It starts with fall in love with their problem. The best way to get a yes for us is to figure out what their priorities, or to shape them potentially, if we have an idea they haven't thought of yet, but somehow fall in love with their problem, find their words around it, repeat those back, let them know that they're seen, that we get it, and then to suggest how we might be able to help them. If I sort of pull it out into a 4-step process, we want to fall in love with their problem, number 1. Number 2, the fastest way to get the yes isn't to go big, it's to go small. How do I give them the experience of working with us? And actually, I'll make this a 3-step process to make it simpler. And then the third one is make a recommendation. There's some great research out of Cornell you probably picked up from the book that said a face-to-face request or recommendation has a 34 times better chance of getting yes than an email. So we want to have a system where step 2, we give them the experience of working with us. We actually like roll up our sleeves on our dime and just start helping. Might be a 30-minute coffee chat, half-day workshop, whatever our expertise is, we want to actually start using it. Just start, what's the beginning half day of what we would do if we got hired? Just do that for free. Easy yes. And then somewhere near the end of that, there's a stopping point. We determine how much we give away at no charge. And we say, wow, what we've learned today has been fantastic. What most of our clients do next is blank, or what I'd advise us to do next is blank, or softest version I use a lot. Would it be helpful if next we did this? And that's where we started to convert from the unpaid to the paid. Yeah. But anyway, amazing 3-step little process. Fall in love with their problem, give them the experience of working with us, and make a recommendation. You just do that over and over and over and over again. And it results in deepening relationships and a ton of commercial success.
And I think in terms of the give, whatever that is, it depends on the size of the opportunity, right? So a CEO of a $1 billion, revenue professional service firm is probably going to get a little bigger freebie than, the person that is running a 500-person law firm.
That's exactly right. How we think of it is you're going to scale that up or down. So what somebody might know is what's their customer acquisition cost when they're just trying to sell. When I put that in air quotes,
right.
It's usually really high, like it, because you have such a low success rate. It's cost a lot per acquisition. Yeah. So what this model does is it just flips that completely around. It says, no, we're going to give our best away up front so that we might have 80 or 90% success rates through this. Right. And what that lets us do is pivot or change from talking about what we do to actually doing it. And then that's where you get the real high success rate. So if somebody at the biggest end, if a consulting firm's doing $100 million potential transformation for an organization, well, they might give away $1 million up front. If somebody's a personal coach and $10,000 a year is a big ticket item for them to coach somebody for a year. Well, maybe they give away an hour for free up front to sort of help a potential client. So
Right.
we can scale the give up and down based on what we think the final amount might be.
Throughout your book, and again with the Go Giver also, and Adam Grant's Give and Take, the give is about having no expectations of ever receiving anything in return. I think that's one of the key mindset that your book points out too. It's just like, it's about give. You control that, and you're done with it. You're not like, well, I gave them something and they never called me back or whatever.
So many people think that relationship development is random, because if you just look at one purchase or one deep relationship, that can appear to be random. Wow, the person found our website and called us. It's random. Or I really invested in this person. It never paid off. It's random. But what's not random is if you scale it up to like a whole year or longer. One person's out there in some business and they're investing like this with one person a year. Like they don't give away very much. Well, there's some competitor of theirs that does this giving move, let's say 100 times a year. Well, my money is on the person that gives away 100, and again, these aren't massive gifts. They're scaled up relative to the right level, like we talked. Well, somebody who does this move, this give to grow move 100 times a year, I can tell you they're going to have explosive growth relative to the one. So the randomness fades away as we do this more often. It might be random in any one case, but the person who has a strategic method of giving that does it routinely, they are going to win work. You just create all these people running around trying to help you because you've helped them.
What do you think is the hardest part for them to implement or grasp?
Consistency. And that's actually the fourth section of the book. So it's a perfect segue. What can happen is, and I bet your audience, like listeners, viewers would agree with this, is like, it's one thing to get some momentum. It's another thing to keep it. So what'll happen anytime where somebody's got one foot in a deep expertise and one foot into growth or relationship development, what'll naturally happen is, let's say they read Give to Grow, they have explosive growth. Problem with that is they get busy and then they slow down on the growth activities. So you end up with this ebb and flow, this back and forth. And it's just staying consistent that is the magic. So what the fourth section of the book does is teach a little 15-minute ritual every week. And all you have to do is spend 15 minutes. You take a look at your key relationships. Usually you got to write these down. This can't be managed in your head. Our brain's horrible at managing projects in our head. We got to write down our 10 or 15 most important relationships long-term, optimizing for long-term. We want to write down our opportunities. What are we trying to move forward? We got to make some money too, or otherwise we go to business. So we got to actually close deals. So you take a look at your opportunities. And then all you do is pick, what are the 3 most important things I need to do next week that are proactive? They satisfy 3 criteria. BIG, they're big impact. They're in our control. So we write offer lunch to Jane, not have lunch with Jane. Always we can write them so we're in our control. And G, growth oriented. Big impact, in our control, and growth oriented. And then all we have to do is do 3 things every week. We're going to do the 3 most important things. And what's glorious about that is if somebody gets slammed and they only have a couple minutes the next week, they're just picking the 3 things that fit into the little bit of time they have. But doing that little bit every week, it'll keep the consistency. It'll keep things moving forward.
You give away a ton of free resources. There's no way I could get through all of them. Based on the book, as well as your business website. There's just so much out there, and your podcast guests are amazing that you've had on too. But from a data guy, I'll say there's not much measurement stuff in the resources that at least I saw. You talk about goal setting and leading indicators and lagging, but talk through that. Kind of the setting goals process.
Yeah, and that's because there was just a limited amount we could put in the book Give to Grow, but that's all in our core training, all the goal setting and measurement and all that stuff. And then we also have a training for leaders, and then we really get into goal setting, and because that's a leader needs to drive that on their team. Just to put a pin in the resources, even if somebody doesn't have time to go grab the book Give to Grow, they can go to givetogrow.info and get all the free resources. And we've set it up so even if you didn't have the book, all the resources people get for free will still make sense, including videos from me like you've seen and downloadable worksheets and all that. Givetogrow.info. On the measurement side, I think of it like this, that almost everybody, when they set goals, stops at the setting the goals for the outcome level. This year, I want to bring in so much business. This year, I want to have so many deals closed, matters, projects, whatever. And that's important. We got to do that. Let's call that a lagging indicator, for lack of a better word. What then I like to push people to do, that I do myself, is think, given the state of my book of business right now, my business, what are the leading indicators that I need to do at some frequency, that if I do those, I'll get to the lagging that I want. If I put in these efforts every week, I'll get to that number of deal closed or dollar amount or whatever by the end of the year. Like, I'll give you mine right now. We have really specific and very aggressive goals for the whole company for this year. We've shared those as a team. As an intermediate goal, we broke those into quarters. The whole team succeeds or fails together, because that's how we want the business to work. We don't want sharp elbows and direct commissions, like everybody sharing everything. And on each quarter, the team developed, here's the prize we'll all get together if we all hit the goal. They're fun. So the team developed these. So they're like, we'll all get a Friday off and you get $1,000 and you have to splurge it on yourself and prove that you spent it on yourself that day.
Love it.
You can't save it. We got some cocktail making and cooking classes and stuff like that we'll do as a team too. But anyway, so let's call that intermediate rewards. Like, if I get that thing, I'll get a special prize, a little splurge, something I could do selfishly. And then with the leading indicator metrics, for me personally, I realized as the figurehead of the business, I can get meetings and get things unstuck better than our other couple dozen people. So for me, I'm trying to reach out to 10 people a week where the relationship's been a little dormant, or somebody went from this company to that company, but we haven't engaged yet, or whatever. And 10 people a week, I need to reach out to either unstick a meeting or a process, or say, I'm going to London, it's been a while, let's catch up, send a couple of those emails this morning. Just the kind of proactive tip of the spear stuff. And I feel like if I do 10 of those a week, call it 500 a year, that's the thing I need to be doing. The rest of the team can do follow-up and scoping and all the other awesome, generous stuff we do.
Right.
But a different person on the team might have different leading indicators. So anyway, the point of that is, like, let's figure out what we want that we influence but don't control.
Yeah.
Maybe have some intermediate things that are going to be little prizes if we put in the effort or get the result.
Yeah.
And then how can we pull it all the way back to things we can 100% control and just do that week in and week out?
I'm going to ask you a question, and it's probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 hours of your sales leadership training. But, there's always the fine line between measuring activity of salespeople, and getting too much worried about, you have to make these many calls per day or this many office visits. But what's your high level thoughts on that?
I think it's a tricky business, and the most important thing is to pick the metric that you think actually correlates to business. I'll give you an example of what didn't work and what does work. So we had a client one time that a big global consulting firm, they really wanted to create a lot of activity in the marketplace. And they just felt like we need to just be out there more. Well, unfortunately, the metric they chose was emails to clients. Not bad, but the problem with that is the incentive then was just to spam clients with low value emails. So it ended up not working at all. Now, we weren't involved, so it wasn't my idea. I just heard about it. But we worked with them on broader stuff. We had a client the other day where they said, what really makes the difference for us, super global elite law firm, antitrust practice, one of the best in the world, people that come out of the FTC, things like that. With the metric we're thinking about using there is meaningful conversation with clients. That's really squishy. But we had a call yesterday with the whole practice area, and they started to discuss, well, what does that mean? It means I spent time with somebody that's on a specific list. That's not just some friend from law school that could never hire us. It's like these are people that have to be in senior roles at these major companies. So there's already a filter, thing one. Thing two, they started to find a meaningful conversation as learning about that person's priorities, and we didn't pitch anything, and looking for ways to be helpful in any way we could. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter if it's us, if we introduce them to a search firm, they need help because they're finding a role, whatever it is. So meaningful conversation was A, it has to be a VIP kind of person that we've pre-identified. B, the conversation has to be all about them. and we're going to find ways to follow up. That's differentiating, because most lawyers aren't doing that. They're just talking about themselves. So we're still at the beginning end of this strategy. But if they do that, if they track it, Jeff, it'll be a true differentiator in the marketplace for them.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I could talk to you for at least a couple more hours, but I know you have to go. So thank you.
Oh, it's been awesome. No, I really enjoyed our first meeting. I'm so glad we could do this, and I really appreciate you having me on the show. I'll talk, I always, Jeff, I'll close with this. Like, I always look up to like Warren Buffett and Betty White and these people that just like love what they do so much it's not even work. I feel that about our stuff, and like I could just talk about it all day. I really hope I'm 95 years old and going through McDonald's in the morning and just doing it again another day like Warren Buffett. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah. Rupert Murdoch retired at, I think, 93. He was worth $8 billion. So he wasn't working for the money, obviously.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Mo.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on the show.
Joe, I got to tell you, Mo joins an elite list for me. He's a new bromance. So, I have a bromance with Seth Godin since the mid-90s. Tim Ferriss joined that group. Well, not group. It became a group after Tim joined in probably about 2008. And now Mo is just fascinating to me. I just, one of my favorite books, most gifted books, is this The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, who has been a guest, and John David Mann, co-authors. And then Adam Grant's Give and Take. I love Adam. I love that book. But I think Mo's Give the Grow book is just, it's kind of the tactical way to take the concepts of both the, fable novel like the Go-Giver book and the data-driven, 370-page Give to Take book by Adam Grant. And it's just, I when I read it, I just, I was just amazed. It was just so good. And it's, and me, and, I try to help people. He wrote this whole book about it. And what I loved is, he was an actuary, first of all, a homecoming king actuary.
And homecoming.
Yes. That might be the first one in world history, if not the only.
I don't think their Venn diagrams intersect very often.
Right. But, he was an actuary, and, you have to pass a shit ton of tests to be certified or whatever the designation is. And then he goes into business development. His aha moment, which became later on the kind of concept behind his book and his company, the Bunnell Idea Group, big. He has this meeting with this Fortune 20 CHRO. They're at Starbucks, and the CHRO goes, "I don't need your help." So knows like, whoa, what do I do there? But he had prepared, and he shared 11, 12 handwritten notes he had done before.
I got this presentation. You're going to listen to it, right?
Right. Well, no, I think it wasn't even part of his presentation. There were some ideas, and he showed him the handwritten notes, and Mo leaves with 9 action items. I mean, it was so good. And then his first job out of college, I think, he was working for the National Association of whatever frat he was in college. And I guess he meets, he had to go to college campuses. He learned a lot about resilience because people, looked at them like, this is the government coming down to close me down type thing.
Yep.
These different frat houses. And he meets Matthew McConaughey at the University of Texas when Matthew was in college. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. And then he gives a mini masterclass in his book, Give the Grow. We talked about so many things. Doing the work is different than winning the work. Finding new clients. Keep emails small, under 50 words, so you can, so people can read it on their phone. On and on. I mean, what kind of metrics drive it? I mean, lead with generosity. Revenue follows. And you have to be strategic about it. But I don't know. There's so many great things I loved about it. And I'm sure you have some insight on it.
There were so many things. And, if you have so many authors that you've mentioned that essentially have the same concept as a give to grow mentality. You kind of got to believe maybe they're onto something. Maybe they've got something right. The way that he makes it a little bit different, though, is that he actually puts meaning behind every one of these things. Like keep emails short. Okay, that's a good general rule. Keep them under 50 words. Well, wait a minute. Why is 50? Did you just pull that number out of the air? Or what? Well, no. That is the number of words that you can fit on one page on the phone in Outlook. Oh, well, that kind of makes sense. You've mentioned before, you're not supposed to have favorite children. We're not supposed to have favorite interview guests either. But man, Mo would be right up there with him.
I love the conversation.
Amazing interview. Anybody that can use Warren Buffett and Betty White in the same sentence and give them as examples of people that love their work so much that they're just never going to quit.
Yeah, they work into their 90s. I so enjoyed them. And another thank you to Joel Goldberg for introducing me to Mo. So
it was a great interview. I'd love to just turn around and either just press play again and rewind it and listen to that interview again, or have him on the show again, because he's an amazing guy. And that he's got tons of stories he just didn't get to. So it was great.
Yeah. Joe, I love your sense of humor. Give me one. I need something today.
You need something? Okay, here's these. This guy's going to interview he needs a mathematician. He interviews 3 different people. One of them is a pure mathematician. The other one is applied mathematician. The third guy is a real estate appraiser. So he asks them all 3 the same question. What is 1/3 plus 2/3? The pure mathematician says, well, it's 1. The applied mathematician takes out his pocket calculator, punches in the numbers, and he says it's 0.999999999. The real estate appraiser says, what do you want it to be?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights.